here to talk about growth. And we've been talking about it all morning, but today this session's about scaling. It's about building a business beyond the founder, beyond the CEO. And my name is Steve Wilt. I'm with the firm named CAPTRUST. I'm really excited about this panel. Um, so we're going to break this into three buckets. The first one is, as a CEO or a founder, how do you recognize, when do you recognize that it's time to start changing your roles and responsibilities, offloading it to other partners? And then how do you implement that? And then what's that succession plan look like? But we're going to start here with introductions, and I'm going to ask Rachel to open up with an introduction.
Yeah. Hi, I'm so happy to be here with you all. I'm Rachel Phillips, one of the founders and CEO of Fully Accountable. We are an outsourced accounting and finance firm in the Akron area. I was a John Carroll graduate, went to law school. I'm technically a lawyer by trade, but I don't practice. So sorry for any of those of you that do. But I'm really grateful to be here today.
Rachel, was that your interesting fact about yourself?
Oh, gosh. No, my most interesting fact about myself would be right out of undergrad, I was a lobbyist for the International Society of Explosives Engineers. And so I held an explosives license for about a decade. That
There
would
you
be my
go. I'm glad I
fun
asked.
fact. Yeah.
I don't know if I can top that fun fact, so I may leave my fun fact out. But Dwayne Groll, I'm the CEO of Environmental Design Group, headquartered here in Akron. We are a design firm that designs spaces and places and the infrastructure that goes underneath them. So you may know us. A couple decades ago, we did the master plan for what now is the Towpath Trail. More recently, Summit Lake and the rebirth of that. We've been working on that for about 10 years. And if you're from up north, the Solstice Steps over in Lakewood. So if you've ever been there, so that's what we do. So you may think, wow, your company's been around for 40 plus years. You're the founder. No, a little bit backstory there. So the company was founded in 1984. It was sold in 2005, and the name went away. It was bought by a larger engineering firm. Great Recession hits, housing market goes in the tank. So a group of us got together and we bought the name and the Akron office and 30 employees in 2012 and spun out from that larger. So I'm one of the founders and the CEO of that. We started with 30 people in 2012. We ended up at about $4 million. Today, we are 130 people with 5 offices in Ohio and about $20 million in sales. So fun fact, I don't know, fun fact, but my wife and I live in Copley. Our son lives in Boston and we love to travel wherever we can go. And then there's this lake up here that keeps drawing me up to try to catch walleye and perch. Some days it's fruitful. Last Sunday was not fruitful. So.
Thank you both. I'll do a quick introduction as well. As I mentioned, Steve Wilt with CAPTRUST. I love growth. I moved to CAPTRUST 17 years ago. Actually, I had to start over. It was January of 2009, right in the middle of the credit crisis. A lot of my team stayed behind, a lot of my clients. So I brought 12 clients with me back in 2009 and about 500 million in assets. We managed 401ks and pensions for mid to large size companies, as well as the Chamber Met. So now any size company. And over those 17 years, we've grown, and this is relevant for the rest of the day, to 105 clients, about 17 billion in assets. We've gone from a team of 3 to 9. So it's not a big company, but I'm going to be talking about how service folks, accountants, attorneys, advisors can think about succession planning as we go through this. And last thing I'll share is my kids were 4 and 6 when I made the move. I didn't want to travel anymore. So I decided to focus locally. So out of those 105 clients, 95 are within an hour drive of here. And it was becoming a member of the Chamber, and actually Justin's here, joining Leadership Akron, were two of the key components to building out that local market for me. So really impactful, those two things that we did. Fun fact about me is my grandfather owned Thompson Pontiac, which was a car dealership over on Front Street. I don't know if many of you are old enough to remember Thompson Pontiac, but he was extremely involved in the community. And the other one is Americhem, right across the street, was my first 401k client. They hired me when I was 25, and they're still a client today. So this spot right here is relevant to me. Yeah. All right, so let's dig in. Rachel, you got the mic. We'll start with, what was the first sign that your business needed to evolve beyond you, and you realized the next stage of growth was required?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing that I noticed was that I was spending a majority of my time on things that I A was not good at, but B did not per se value. So I felt that I just had to do them because I couldn't invest in somebody else to do them. And what I found was I was actually spending a lot of time on low needle moving items for our company and spending a lot of time just keeping administrative items that truly weren't administrative, but I just put them in a bucket because I hadn't seen how they could be valuable. For me, when I realized if I could gain back that 15 to 20 hours per week and put it to my highest and best use, our company would actually grow and do a lot more, and it would actually create the funds and the ability to hire that person to do those jobs that I just felt I inherently had to do, because I was the owner. And so for me, when I found myself working 12 and 15-hour days and doing a lot of things I didn't like and I was not good at, was the first indicator to me that it was like, this is time to go grow beyond just you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Dwayne, what was your first indicator?
Yeah, I was very fortunate. Actually, in 2012, at the end of the year, the leadership team was doing my annual review, and Bob, who still sits on my shoulder because I still remember the words, and he said, "Dwayne, you need to stop working on projects because you're the one that enjoys working on the business, and you really need to focus on that because if you continue to work on projects, the business is not going to flourish." And so he said, "We all like working on projects, and we got that. So you really need to focus." So I was very fortunate that someone did it very kindly and did it in a way and really made me stop and think. It's like, okay, yes, I need to step away from the engineer in me and working on projects with clients and really focus on the business side. And then it evolved over time from there.
Yeah, thank you. I'll just share one I got from 12 to about 30 clients. And I was working, to your point, all day, every day. I realized I couldn't do it all anymore. And I started to have to turn it over if I wanted to keep growing, right? It was we were going to hit a level of complexity that just couldn't get us to the next step. And that's when kind of those tough decisions start. So, um, how did you start turning over big tasks? Dwayne, you can start here on this one.
Well, yeah, it's challenging to let go, and sometimes, it's building trust both ways in people, and sometimes it's like, give them a stretch assignment or a stretch task and see how they do. One thing I would two things I would note is, one, sometimes you just for me, it's like, "Okay, I'm just gonna give it to them, close my eyes." That's hope, not a strategy. But also, what I've learned over the years is people may do it not exactly the way that you do it. Focus on the outcome versus how they're doing it. And oftentimes I find it's like, oh shoot, that's a lot better. That's a lot better than I would have done. I never thought of doing it that way, and the outcome's much better. So there's a couple points from my learned experience.
Dwayne, keep going for a second. Just real quick, was there anything in particular that was really hard to give up or that was just really challenging to turn over to somebody?
Yeah, the my relationships with clients. So many clients, and I built relationships and friendships with, and realized that yeah, I can't serve. What was happening was I can't serve them as well as I once did. So bringing someone else from the organization, mentoring them, introducing the clients, helping them, yet having to pull back and maintaining the friendships, but giving them enough space to develop their relationships, and that was pretty difficult. But it worked out well.
Yeah, thank you. Rachel, same two questions.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, it was just deciding I was going to let go of items and making a list and starting at the top. I think sometimes as business owners, we're like, okay, I'm not doing these 12 things anymore. And you decide all 12 of them have to be gone. But I gave myself grace to start with one and move to two and move to three and so on, so that not only was I setting the next person up for success, but what I was actually doing is saying, this is now yours, and empowering them to go do it rather than expecting them to do all the things that I was doing, that, like Dwayne said, the exact same way that I was doing it, hysterically. I also found that most people started doing things far better than I did. And I was like, I should have done this a long time ago. Like, I did a bunch of things I don't like in a really terrible way. And they do it in a really good way. So it was just starting and doing it, and pick the one thing that you're going to get off your plate, commit to it, help that person win at it, and then do it again, right? And so that's my philosophy with a lot of things that we do. Commit, execute, start over, and do it again. For me, the one thing that was really difficult to give over, I oversaw accounts receivable for us forever. And I felt nobody would care about collecting our money as diligently as I did or bill them. When somebody was behind, give as graceful as an email as I did. But boy, was it a freeing exercise when somebody did it and did it really well. I was like, such a reminder that other people can do a lot of really good things and you don't have to be trapped in something just because you think you're the best at it or you're the only person that cares about it.
Thank you for that. I will share for me that it was, we go through an annual business planning process every year. And at the end of the process, we look at our highest and best use, roles and responsibilities. And on a small team, what I found is that if you have roles and responsibilities right, everything flows really well. If you have them wrong, that's where most of my issues have come from over the years. And what I realized was that my highest and best use was bringing in new business. Nope. And going out and getting it. But just like Dwayne, turning over my clients to my team was extremely difficult. I felt like they bought me, they wanted me to be in every meeting. But what I found over time was slowly transitioning them to others who, to Rachel's point, I've got team members that are arguably better at service than I am, that are more detail oriented than I am, and that's their DNA, right? So I stay involved with those clients, but at a very high level because I love the hunt. And I'll just tell you just a quick anecdote. I love the hunt so much that I had a small injury. I couldn't golf last Friday. So Friday afternoon on a sunny day, I'm on LinkedIn and I'm trying to find new clients at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And if you don't do this, like we follow all of our clients, CFOs, VPs of HR, CEOs on LinkedIn, and they move to a new company, that becomes a prospective client. What I didn't realize was I had CFOs that had moved to 2 or 3 new companies and I wasn't tracking them. Right. So I went in the search box of LinkedIn, all the CFOs I know popped up. I went to first and I found CFOs that have been to other companies that are now prospects. And I messaged 8 of them and 3 of them responded. Now I have 3 new prospects from last Friday afternoon. So I am back to golfing, so I won't be doing that today. But but I do love the hunt. So turning it over was a big deal.
Mhm.
So when you think about highest and best use a lot, how do you define your highest and best use at this point?
Yeah, at this point, I'm actually going to go back to one of the original things Dwayne said, and that's working on the business. I think that I don't need to work in the business anymore. I don't need to do client engagements. I don't need to be building a process on how we do something. I need to be thinking about how we grow, expand, scale. Are we reaching new demographics? What are our verticals, our demographic? That's where I need to spend my time. And the second piece of it is leading the rest of the team, like helping them continue to grow their careers, give them opportunities. Again, be working on the business, not in those details of the business.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I think for myself, and I've done this every year for the last 3 decades, but I take development plans really serious for all of our employees and myself included. So I would get out at least twice a year and I'll either get on my whiteboard or a piece of paper. I draw a line down the middle. It's like, what am I really good at?
Mhm.
My highest and best use. And then what am I not so good at over here? And then I look at, okay, and then what does the organization need me to do in 2027? And so by defining that, and then how can I strengthen what I'm really good at? And that matches up with the organization. And these things that I'm creating the kink in the garden hose, I refer to that often, is like, when you get that kink in your garden hose, then all of a sudden the water stops, right? So if I'm not good at something, I'm holding up a process, okay, there's someone in the organization that can do that better. And it's one person or 2 people, how do we do that better and get that off my plate so I'm not creating that roadblock in the organization.
Yeah, that kink of the garden hose is a really good
Mhm.
example that I think a lot of us as founders or CEOs find ourselves not even realizing that we're getting in the way of the team.
Yeah.
And when we get out of the way, things move a lot smoother.
Yeah. I'm also very fortunate to have a team now, a leadership team that we're very open and honest and we trust each other. So every once in a while, they one of them will come to me and is like, Stay in your lane. Stay in your lane. You're creating chaos. That's over here. And so very fortunate that when you get there, that's very fortunate to have those people around you that you can trust, and they trust there won't be any repercussions, anything like that.
It's funny, one of my partners is in the room, and I wonder if when I stick my nose back in the business, if I'm getting in the way. And I see him smiling back there, so I'm not going to ask for an answer. For me, the highest and best use now is really the annual planning. It's leading the team. It continues to be hunting, but at my stage, trying to move from success to significance has changed. Right? For years, it was like I needed to grow. I needed to be the one that was bringing in the new business. Now all my partners are bringing in new business, and I'm doing much more in the community, much more in my firm, much more mentoring and leading along those ways. So I think your highest and best use can evolve over time as you continue to get people under you that are stronger and can manage things for you.
Yeah.
So we're going to move on from, kind of how to recognize that it's time to implementation. So, the first question here is, what systems, processes, operating disciplines have the biggest impact on helping you scale your organization?
For me, that's two pieces. The first one is technology. What technology could we use to help streamline, provide us data and reporting so that we are making objective business decisions, not gut decisions? And then putting somebody in place that was responsible for that reporting, so that they could actually provide insights on what needed to be done. Again, not using the old gut check of like, does this feel right? Like, let's actually use objective data to make the decisions. The second one was processes. And so one of the things that I thought was really important that I always try to do is when a process goes to a new person, it should be iterated, right? Like both Steve and Dwayne have said, like the person, when I built the process, it was built based on the very archaic way that I did it when I first started the business. And how are we going to evolve that? And so whenever something is passed to the next person, challenging them to make that process better and how can they streamline it for more efficiencies?
I think one of the things I'll touch on here is as you grow your business, what worked at 10 people or for us at 30 people, we got to around 40 or 50 people, was like, uh-oh, things are starting to break. Maybe your top line revenue starts to plateau, your bottom line is not increasing, hopefully not decreasing. But then it's like, okay, we got to take a step back here. These processes that were in our mind, maybe at 30 people, doesn't work at 50 people. And then we hit another plateau at 80. And that one was a little more, took a little bit more time, but it's like, okay, this is no longer working. So what can we do to change the processes, get away from, say, Excel spreadsheets or, paper time cards, whatever it is in your business. And so recognizing that and then making those adjustments, I think is very important.
Is that through an annual business planning process throughout the year? How do you pause to review your business to check that out?
Yes. So we do an annual strategic plan, and that's what informs the business plan. It shows up there, but it's in the course of business, throughout the year. Stephen is just like, oh shoot, this is no longer working, and our booking, our sales are slowing down, and just recognizing in a variety of ways. Sometimes it's just a gut feeling. It's like that's something's the matter here. We're not, or people, employees start complaining. It's like, oh, this is so difficult to complete this project. And it's like, okay, how can we make it easier? How can we enhance the process to reduce the stress on the employees, the teams that are producing the work?
Thank you. Rachel, do you do it once a year or is it throughout the year?
Yeah, ours is very throughout the year. We're a little bit smaller, so we're about $10 million. And so for us, it's a little bit easier. And the way that we're growing is to pulse check about every quarter. And oftentimes what we do is focus on a department where, just like you said, where are we seeing the people that are either feeling the most burdened, stressed, overwhelmed, or where are we getting the most client complaints? Because something's likely broken that's generating clients to be unhappy. And so we'll really dive into there, fix that, build the strategy around it, see how it goes for the next quarter, and then really dive into the next area.
Got it. I might need to rethink my strategy. We do it once a year. It's my favorite part of the year, though. I spent, about 40 years of the business planning. We dissect every piece of the business and And then I involve my entire team, and every single time something comes out of that we need to change, fix, and we spend time doing it through a retreat. Um, I will share with you one of the biggest capacity gains we got was, virtual teams.
Mm-hmm.
In our industry, we meet with our clients every quarter, and, what used to be our firm would create the reviews, send us a bunch of books. I'd go to Cleveland all day, meet with 4 different clients. I'd be carrying, 50 different books with me to pass out to the clients. And then we went to iPads to make that efficiency. But now most of our clients just want to do it via Teams and Zoom. So we could sit in my home office and do 5 reviews in a day. I don't do a lot of reviews anymore. I get my partners here to keep me honest, but, and you don't have to get on the road, and that capacity has been massive. And now we'll potentially get into AI, but the different things we're doing there, to make those efficiencies happen. Dwayne?
Yeah, just Rachel triggered something in my thought process. So we've gone to we do external net promoter scores for clients. We also do that internally.
Yeah.
So sometimes when we'll see something internally, it's just one question we send out periodically, and we see those, we monitor those scores, and it goes down. Okay, let's dig a little deeper, and then same thing, we get a review or two back from a client, and it's like, oh, we have a challenge in our process here.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you. Have you found success promoting people within the organization? Or, this has been the last 2 sessions I've been in. They've talked about maybe you outgrow some people or the organization does, and you got to go out and find new leaders.
Yes. As organizations, we've experienced as organizations grow, you may see people that, new people come in, or people grow past, a person or two. And so it's a little, we try to give coaching, we try to give mentoring, but sometimes people, organizations grow past people. And so, that is a challenge in scaling.
I've been both successful and wildly unsuccessful. I think the one thing that I always go back to is I'm still in the category of a small business. And so most of my leaders that I would be promoting up, the largest experience they've ever had is in the size of the business that I'm running. And so if I'm expecting them to help get me to the next step, do they have the skills to grow beyond an experience that they've never had? And so sometimes the evaluation is, yeah, they're worth the shot, and it might be a little mucky for a minute, but we can probably get there. And there's other occasions where you just have to say, I actually need somebody with some tenured experience, a little bit bigger in the organization, because they've seen and know what this looks like, and they're actually going to help and guide us there. And so I think you can be both successful in some areas, and in other ones, there's an opportunity to go add somebody to the team that's going to add a dynamic and experience that you don't have, just because so many leaders on your team will have only had as experience as large as you currently are.
That's a great point. Going by my team, our firm CAPTRUST has grown from, in the 17 years, 10 offices to 100 offices, 100 employees to 1,800. And our senior leadership continues to bring in, a CFO or VP of HR that comes from a bigger company that can help us get to that next level.
Yeah.
The founder's mentality, the idea that at some point the founder or the CEO can walk away from the business, it's going to continue to hum without them. What do you think the biggest mistake founders make when they're trying to scale or to think through that part of the business?
I think the biggest mistake when they're going through that is not letting go. I know we started with this topic, but I think the reality is, in order for that to be successful, you have to let go of some things. You have to be okay, like Dwayne said, that they're not going to do it the same way that you did. And you have to be okay with knowing that sometimes it's not going to work, and you're going to have to coach them through on how to be successful. The reality is most businesses aren't going to break overnight. So one big mistake by a team member does not mean your business is going to crumble. And so working through and enduring the hard parts of building up that leader for succession is just the one thing I think that owners need to get at peace with and be ready for when they're really looking to step away and equip the next season of leaders in their organization.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I look back at our 14 years, one of the big challenges we probably had, and it's taken me 10 years to get used to this, probably being too kind. Not being direct with people that aren't going to be making. So I've learned to be kind in a way that, meaning they're probably not a fit with our organization. they need to find a home somewhere else. And, trying to save someone and repeatedly in my career over and over again, that just isn't going to work. And so spending 2 or 3 years on coaches and external coaches and so forth when they're not a fit, and worse if they're denigrating your culture. And that's I think the worst, or holding out of that superstar because they're bringing in so many dollars, and my fear of like, oh my gosh, what happens if, and in the meantime, simultaneously destroying the culture, and then you're losing people. So overarching, my experience is it's taken me 10 years to get used to, okay, we need to move on much quicker from someone that isn't a fit with their culture, or they can't, they just can't perform the job.
So I just have to say, I've heard that in all three sessions from all
Yeah.
three panels that,
Yeah.
cutting bait on an employee that just isn't going to be that one
Mhm.
sooner than later is a really big thing.
Yeah.
I would share one of the mistakes that I've seen. It doesn't apply to me, of course, is ego. So I think ego gets in the way with founders and CEOs. Letting go, again, was mentioned, thinking that no one can do it the way they can do it, all those different pieces. And I actually read a book on this recently called Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday. Ryan is a modern day stoic. I see a few head shaking in the room. He's got 5 or 6 books out there. Great person to follow on social media. Goes well beyond that, all kinds of different business tips and thoughts. And so I'm a big fan of his. And just thinking that you are the only one that has the secret sauce, right? That you're the only one that can do these things is another big mistake that we see out there. So building a little trust, training, getting people ready to do what you do is a big deal.
Like to reiterate what Steve just said. I mean, I look back at all the decisions. It's so much better decisions when you ask someone else in the organization, "Hey, you got a second?" I just had one yesterday. I was debating. I had these 2 different approaches on this. Could be a volatile situation with the client or not, and it was very. I was kind of waffling on which way we should go, and talked through it for 5 minutes, and then it was like got clarity right away, and then it was like, "Okay, I know what the right decision is based on that feedback." So, the more often you can have somebody, whether it's inside your organization or outside your organization, working through challenges and listening instead of just, I've made enough decisions where I'm just like, "Oh, I know what to do, I do it." And it works out better, I think, if you include other people.
Mhm.
Not all the time, but on those key ones that you really need to think through.
Thank you for that. So a lot of small business owners in the room, maybe thinking, where do I start? Any tips or thoughts about where people should start to think through this?
Well, I think one thing really important is to have a plan, and that plan may be as simple as a spreadsheet. Back in 2010, 11, as we were preparing, we as an office, we would just take a spreadsheet and we'd have 50 things we wanted to do in the next year, and then we'd break them into certain categories and put initials by whoever uh, is responsible in charge of that. And we still that today. Today, it's much more sophisticated, but it's still having a plan. No matter if you're one person just starting out, having that plan in place, those things that you need to do in the next X, whether it's quarter, year to 2 years, 5 years, but having something in writing so that you can refer back to it and say, "Yep, we're on the right track."
My piece of advice would be, just like Dwayne said, get your plan and then do your plan. And so if it's these 5 or 6 things you're going to move off your plate, move them and then go on a vacation and test the system. Remove yourself from the office, remove yourself from Zoom and email, Slack, Teams, whatever you use, and actually equip the team to do it. You will be wonderfully surprised at how well they will excel if you've helped set them up successfully, right? You don't need to pass all 15 things to them. Just test the first 5. And then when you come back and everything's working, you get to do the next 5 and hopefully get to go on a second vacation, right? And just keep doing it, right? I think oftentimes we need to let people fly and do a good job. I think back to the question right before this, like one of the things we do is we step in really quick when we think something's going off course. And so we don't actually let our people try and work through the hard stuff. And so by actually being gone and making them work through it is actually not going to help them be better, but you actually realize they have the skills to do it because you didn't pre-solve it for them. And so that's always my piece of advice, like, just do it and get out of the way.
How hard was that first vacation?
Very hard. Yeah. Very, very hard. I have a very distinct memory in my career. When I woke up, for me, it's very clear. A client was incredibly happy with our services. I woke up at 2 a.m. to use the restroom, checked my email because that's what we all do. And they had charged back the last 6 months of services. And I was like, I was just on a call with them yesterday where they were delighted. And they were, I mean, they're losing money, but they were really happy with our services. And I stayed up all night writing the narrative and the feedback for these 6 chargebacks. I was doing it. I got into the office at 8 a.m. and I got it submitted. And I will remember hitting that button on submit and thinking to myself, what are you doing? It is 8 a.m. The bank isn't even open yet. You blew an entire night of sleep on something that didn't need to be happen at that time, right? I could have gone back to bed, got up, had my coffee, breakfast, gone into the office. It's not due for 21 days. I actually had 21 more days, but it felt so personal and that I had to solve it then for the business. And if I didn't, everything would crumble beneath me. And in that moment, I was like, this will no longer work for me. Like this, that was so wildly unnecessary. Like you got to pull it back. And so I just remember like from that day, I never checked email again after 7 p.m. That felt good to me because I have a lot of West Coast clients. So I was catching them up to 4 p.m. But I have dinner with my family every night. I don't check it when I use the restroom at 2 a.m. And I like to get in early, so 7 a.m. might be an email time. But I just commit to not working outside of those boundaries. And so being on that vacation was a test. Like, was I going to break it because I wasn't there during my 8 to 6, right? But you delete email off your phone and all the other things and just remove the temptation and commit, and you will be much happier for it.
Yeah, I love that. So we have a rule at our team that when anybody goes on vacation on the team, they're not to check their email,
Yeah.
right? You put advance it to someone else on the team, and you just don't do it. And that goes for my, administrative assistant,
Mhm.
our advisors, me, doesn't matter. Because everybody deserves that break.
Yeah.
Right. And then back to the planning, we've talked about it a couple of times. But when I started at CapTrust, we had a 2-page plan. And I'm sure you have this, but one of those pages was our 5-year revenue goals.
Mhm.
And we've been doing that for 17 years. And it is almost eerie how close we come to hitting those goals, plus or minus a small delta every year. So if you don't have those revenue goals written down where you want to be quarter over quarter, year over year, over 5 years, that would be the first thing I would take away from this when it comes to growth. And set them high. Don't be afraid to set them high and then achieve them. So we're going to take questions in a minute, but wanted to ask, when should someone start thinking about their succession plan?
I think you should always be thinking about your succession plan. I think that's part of growing a business. I think that's part of being a good fiduciary to your business. I think it's part of growth and scale. I think you get really serious about it when you are starting to have the conversations in your head about, am I still enjoying what I'm doing? What I think about selling my company. I've got people that are eager and really wanting to rise up in this organization. To me, those are indicators that you really start putting it on paper. But I would encourage all of you to start thinking about it now. Like you don't know what will come, right? And it's better to be prepared than trying to be reactive in the situation.
I have almost the same exact answer. Start on day one.
Yeah.
Because we talk about what happens if someone wins the lottery or
Mhm.
gets hit by the ice cream truck.
Oh, I like that.
And I also we acquired 2 really small firms, one in 22, one in 24. Probably look at, and we're not a serial acquirer, so we may never acquire one again. But we look at a variety of firms throughout the year. Almost all of them have no succession planning. These are relatively small firms, 50 people and under, and there's no second tier leadership.
Mhm.
And so it's just critically important that you start and be thinking about succession and for your other leadership members and if you have other leadership people on your team as well, what is their succession plan and help them with that.
Yeah, thank you for that. I started mine 2 years ago, maybe a little later, but I've got some runway left. But what came out of that was my partner, Paul, who's the heir apparent to take over the practice. So in the service industry, people are really bad about this. Advisors, accountants, attorneys traditionally don't have a written succession plan. But what came out of that was what we need to do to prepare him to take over, right? And that is, continue leadership skills. He went through heart to heart. He's joining all the manager calls now in the firm, client retention, and he's really one of the best in the industry, and then continue to grow the business. And it's allowed us to evolve as a team to grow without me, with all my partners now bringing in new business. And we hit all three of those pillars. I could comfortably walk away and know that the Akron office is going to continue to hum, just like as I was here, right? So we have time to get there, but at least gave us that opportunity to visualize what we need to do to get done between now and whatever that date is. So having that again in writing was a big deal. So one piece of advice you'd give to founders who want to build a company that can thrive beyond that. Many things that we haven't said, that's a big piece for you.
I think for us, and one of the things we learn, and we've always just had this in our DNA, you might have the greatest service team, you might have the greatest widget, the greatest project. If the world doesn't know about it, it may not matter. So marketing is key. It's something we haven't touched on, but for us, we spend up towards a higher metric in our industry on marketing. When the Great Recession hit, we went out and hired another business development exec. We put all our money in marketing. We might have the greatest transportation team that can design the greatest roundabouts, but there are 100 other firms that can do that. And so getting that word out, building those relationships is key to let everybody know you have the greatest widget and to be able to sell that product.
Probably a little unconventional, but be kind to yourself. I think as business owners, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves. We set the bar really high. We forget to celebrate small wins and successes because we're always looking for the grand slam. A 1% win time over time is going to be far better than eventually hitting 100% win, right? And so celebrate along the way. Be kind to yourself when you have a month and you lose a lot of money. Something is going to go wrong, and that's okay, right? You are more than the value of what the number that your business is worth. And so I just encourage people that as business owners, I think we find our identity in the business that we run. And so be kind to yourself in that process. We don't all have good days, and so sometimes businesses won't have good days. Be kind.
That's great advice. Grace, we all fail forward, right? And if we're not trying as entrepreneurs, we're not going to get it there. I would share two things. It's, culture is one, keeping in mind why we're here. In our industry, we're managed 401k plans. We chose to help hardworking Americans achieve a successful retirement, right? People with no money to get money. And that's our passion. And we try and keep that in the very forefront of our thought process. And then to Dwayne's point, marketing, I've been telling our story in the Akron office in Northeast Ohio for 17 years. If a 401k plan goes to bid in Northeast Ohio, we're not included. It's going to ruin my day. It's going to ruin my month, candidly. There's no reason we shouldn't be a part of the RFP process. Doesn't mean we should win everything, but at least we should be included. If we're not, we didn't do our job. So that's our growth mentality of how do we make sure that we are known throughout the marketplace. All right. So questions from the audience.
So my question is, coming from the other end, someone who wants to help build the company, what do you guys look for in the character traits of someone to build your company to you hand it over to that?
So not being the founder, but someone wants to become the founder or be the heir apparent, be the person that takes it over. Yeah. Great question.
I say raise your hand. I would go to your founder, CEO, however your organization is set up and say, hey, I'm not ready today. And I know that, but here's where I would like to go. Do you see this future available to me? And if so, how can we get there? And start with, just like Dwayne has talked about, what is the plan to get you there? Is it training? Is it leadership? Is it a technical skill? Whatever that looks like, communicate. I think that hoping that they figure it out is an unfair position to put them in. But you're the driver of your career. So you go tell them what you're wanting out of your career and see how they can help you get there.
Then again, I'll echo the statement from Rachel. You are the driver of your career. So in addition to the recommendation to go to your founder or CEO or president, ensure that you're you're leading the charge on core values. You're leading, you're building trust amongst all of your teammates. And those things resonate when someone, and then when you do raise your hand, it's like, oh yes, she or he is, that's a great fit and a great thought process. So that's kind of things.
Yeah, those are great pieces. The thing I would add is to, whoever that founder is, to be, loyal beyond belief. Like they got to know that you'll go through the fire for them, and that you're not pushing them out the door, but you're here to help them to achieve their goals, and then to be in line when the time comes.
Rachel, you touched on it a little bit. Moving from someone in the organization who has kind of done every role, right?
Yeah.
Because you were the founder and the original. Um, where do you see, or what advice do you give for kind of not losing your identity once you are at the top? Like
Yeah.
you've brought others up who are now doing that every day, everything that you used to do, and now you're kind of like, what do I do?
Real quick, the question is just how do you not lose your identity as you become that leader? So please go.
Yeah, I would say you become the leader of your leaders. That's your new identity. And so couple things that I do is we're very virtual, but I still get on team meetings. Like I don't talk, I don't lead them. That is not my job. And I'm derailing those that are in charge if I do it. But I'm there, I participate. I am a member of our team. And so I'm part of that. I don't disappear from the organization. I also lead a lot of meetings for our leaders to help them go back. So train them, give them advice. Like just yesterday I was on with a girl that was like, I have a girl that says she's overwhelmed, but she doesn't work on Fridays. I was like coaching her on how you can delicately be like, I understand you're overwhelmed, but you have 8 more available hours to you that would probably reduce your overwhelm, right? And so you will find a new identity in leading and coaching those people. And I really love my company. I've interviewed every single person that works there. There's 44 of us. I will continue to be the last interview, but I'm still a presence and I am approachable. And when we have retreats, I sit down and have dinner with people. So it's just still being one of the people, but your job is leading.
A little bit different take is that, as your business grows, one of my goals is to lead, but also to make myself irrelevant.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
reality is that, if I continue to be not letting people, grow and take over things that I do, then the company will not continue. So, and there are spots during the year where it's like, it feels kind of really lonely. It's like, what's my role here? So I got to step back and say, yeah, I've put myself in irrelevance here. Where's my value? But that is a great question that you posed.
And relevance is a big deal as you get to our stage, right? So how do you stay relevant? Beyond your business, right? There's being board members of the chamber. It's being involved in the community. Personally, I run diversity, equity, inclusion for our entire firm. I'm working on a national impact strategy for our entire firm. That's gives me new energy. It's more, still leading and still trying to grow my team, but those areas are where my passion are now. It's completely changed from where it used to be, right? So trying to find that aspirational area that you can give back is important at that stage. So we have time for one more question, please.
Excellent panel. And thank you for that. And I noticed a common theme of it would be great if at the startup stage, you put up a certain elements in because they came through and now that you did them, was looking back, you see it. I'm just curious, if you go back to that time, was there a moment where you realized you exited startup stage and were in growth stage? Or was it just kind of just happened and you didn't realize until after the fact? Yeah.
So great question. Is there a time that you realize you exited startup stage and you're in growth stage?
It just for us, it just happened. And then we look back and go, oh, what would we have done this if we had known what we were encountering? It worked out wonderfully. But yeah, for us, it was just more of like, here we go. And we were a little bit different. We really, while we were a startup, we had been doing business, in the Akron office for many years under a different company's name, but even before that. So we were always honing our skills, so when we hit the ground in that spinoff in 2012, we were a pretty good functioning business, albeit a small business.
I would say we also just kind of woke up one day and realized it. But I do think a couple of the indicators were like feeling comfortable buying softwares or technologies or something that in startup phase would have felt like we would be so cash strapped. I'm not sure payroll would go through, right? And so that to me was like, oh, we have grown beyond just surviving another month of the startup world, and we are into the day-to-day business of being a business.
Yeah, and just one thing comes to mind is when we did spin out, we took a drawing, we mocked it up and put it on the webpage so people would realize we're real, right?
Yeah.
So it was a couple year, maybe a year or two after where we actually did a formal webpage and so forth. So you do those things. We didn't order business cards till 2 weeks before we spun out because well, if the deal goes through, it doesn't go through, we were tapped out on our personal expenses. So yeah, so somewhere along the line it starts to hit and it's like, oh, we have to buy real software and we have to do a real web page and so forth.
Since this is a growth summit, I'm going to just finish with a question. How many people were here at 8 o'clock or beforehand this morning? How many people scanned the table of name tags to see who you might want to meet? There you go. A handful. So I will tell you, I'm 61 years old. I'm still in growth mode. I was still here to start the day. And I scan those name tags to say, who do I want to meet today? Right? Are my clients here? Are the prospective clients here? Are the people in the community that I can help? Right? But that first 30 minutes of a day like this, to me, is the most valuable part of the day. Now, we're going to have some time together afterwards, but for all these events, chamber events, United Ways, all these things, like if your mind is switched to, I want to bring in a new client, I want to grow, that's just kind of one mindset that I think is important to have. So I want to thank our panelists. Great job. And let's hear it for them.